All right, Algebra 2, as you can tell, I am out, but we are not missing a day. We are not losing a day. Today, all I want you guys to do is to follow along with this video. Make sure you're doing what I'm asking you to do during the video. And then for your quiz today, I will allow you to work with your neighbors and let's just all get 100 on this quiz, okay? And then when you're done with the quiz, if everybody's done, boom, you got a little study hall. It's Friday, 4th period. Relax a little bit, okay? We're not going to get into the next lesson. I'll teach you the next lesson on the review day. It's very easy. It's stuff with your calculator, okay? So this is the last lesson of this week. And all we are doing today is going to prepare for this quiz on intercept form. And how we introduce intercept form is first understanding if I have something like this as an equation. Well, first thing we need to understand is this is a quadratic. This is a quadratic because you can distribute and see that x times x is x squared, x times -4 is -4x, 2 times x is 2x, 2 times -4 is -8. You can see, oh, okay, that equation, x plus 2 times x minus 4, is the same as x squared minus 2x minus 8, which is a quadratic in standard form, okay? So it's a quadratic, but I don't want to distribute. If I was asked to just graph the equation of x plus 2 times x minus 4, I can do so very, very easily because of what I can see from the equation. And what I can see easily is the zeros of the equation. The zeros, or the x-intercepts, are easily seen. An x-intercept is when y is 0. Now, when y is 0, it is easy to tell that x has to be -2 for this to be 0, and then if it's 0 times anything, it's 0. So even though it's x plus 2, it's almost like we're doing shifts. I'm going to shift to the left 2 to know that I have an x-intercept at -2. Even though it's x minus 4, I know I shift to the right 4, and I know if I plug in 4 here, plugging in 4 gives me 0. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my other x-intercept. So that is very easy to do. We automatically know 2 points. And then we can find a third point easily. I know that I just have a 1 in front of this. We are going to open up. I'm going to have this symmetrical quadratic. I should be able to understand, because of symmetry, the vertex will be located right between your zeros. If it's between -2 and 4, all I need to do is take an average. -2 plus 4 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And I will say, oh, my vertex has to be through x equals 1. If I know that my x coordinate of my vertex is 1, I can find my y coordinate of my vertex. Again, this is my equation, by plugging 1 in for x to find y. Three times -3 is -9. I know my vertex is 1, -9. Okay? Great. Let's change it up. I'd like you guys to understanding that we have x minus p and x minus q, and that we have zeros at p0 and q0. I'd like you to graph and find the vertex for y equals -2 x plus 1 x minus 5. Okay, if we could have the sub pause the video, or if you guys could pause the video if you're watching this at home. Please pause the video and go ahead and let's tackle this problem together. Okay, hopefully the video was paused. If it wasn't paused, pause it now. I'm going to do the answer right now. I can see that when x is -1, I will have a 0 for y. -1, this would be 0, times anything is 0, so I know I have the point -1, 0. I can see that when x is 5, this will be 0, making everything 0. I can see that a is negative. That means I know I'm going to open downward, though I actually didn't have to worry about this just yet. I could actually just say, okay, well, my vertex, the x-coordinate, is going to be halfway between -1 and 5. Well, 5 minus -1 over 2. That's 6 over 2, which is 3. 3 is halfway between, 5 plus -1. We got to add then divide by 2. That's 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 is halfway between -1 and 5. Let's see. This is a distance of 3. This is a distance of 3. Okay, so just add your two numbers together, divide by 2 to get the average. You know, it's just a mean. Add and then divide. I was thinking about slope formula. It's not a slope formula. It's just an average. Vertex. We'll have an x-coordinate of p plus q divided by 2. All right. Now, again, I didn't have to know that it opens upward or downward, because if my vertex is at x equals 2, my y will be -2 times 2 plus 1, 2 minus 5. This is 3. That's -3. This is -2. So this is -9 times -2. That's going to be positive 18. And you can do that with your calculator. That means my vertex is up here at 2, 18. Well, you can see it's got to open downward. Though you should have known that it opens downward. Okay? Let's do another one, please, and then we'll switch gears. Please graph and find the vertex for I don't know, 1/4 x. Let's do an easy one. Don't do a hard one. X minus 3 x plus x minus 1. Let's do that. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. You guys find the vertex and graph using the zeros. This equation, y equals 1/4 x minus 3 times x minus 1. Hopefully the video is paused. If the video is not paused, pause it now. Go ahead and do this problem. And here we go. I'm going to give you the answers. So 1, 2, 3. I know when x is 3, positive 3 makes this 0, not negative 3, so positive 3. Positive 1 makes this 0, not negative 1. Same as thinking about shifting to the right instead of, because you're inside parentheses, rather than shifting to the left. Okay, well, that means my vertex is going to be smack dab in between. You could kind of see between 3 and 1 has got to be 2. And you could do this for all of your numbers. But if you're not sure, find the average, 2. When x is 2, I'll have my axis of symmetry on my vertex. I can see I'm opening upwards, but let's do a little bit more work and find the y-coordinate of my vertex. Using this equation, plugging in my x-coordinate, I'll find the y-coordinate. 1/4, 2 minus 3, 2 minus 1. So this is 1/4, negative 1 times 1. So that's negative 1/4. So it ends up being like right here at 2 comma negative 1/4. That's okay. Most of these problems we've been doing, these graphs, we've tried to make the numbers be easy. But understand that quadratics can occur anywhere. And you can have decimals, you can have fractions. That's something that you need to be comfortable with. That if you get a decimal, it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Okay? All right, let's do another one, a little bit trickier, and then we'll change gears. Oh, again, I forgot to write down. The zeros are at P0 and Q0. And the vertex will be at the midpoint, or the average of the two numbers. That's the x-coordinate. All right, what about this one? Y equals negative 2x times x minus 6. This should look maybe confusing and a little bit scary to some, but for others it might be fine. Where are your zeros? Discuss. I hope we are trying today because I want us to do well on this quiz and I don't want us to just copy off of who we think is going to be the go-to person to copy off of. I want us to be trying this. Don't let me down. Hopefully you realize that, this negative 2x should not be scary. You can write it as x minus 0 if you really wanted, though it's not necessary, because you should be able to see if this is 0, everything is 0. If this is 6, everything is 0. We have zeros at 0 and at 6. Okay? That's not that bad. Okay, find the vertex and graph, please. Pause the video so that students have time to do this. All right, here's the answer. Our vertex is going to be at the midpoint between our zeros. So the average of the two, that's just 3. That's my x-coordinate. That means the y-coordinate of the vertex, plug in 3. I get negative 2 times 3, 3 minus 6. I love 3s today for some reason. It's negative 3 times 3 times 2. Again, it's going to be 18. Positive 18. Again. So don't just assume that it's going to be positive 18 or 9 every time. And there's my graph. Okay. That should cover graphing. That should be easy. Vertex is at the average of your two zeros. I believe on your quiz, none of the vertex x coordinates are going to be at like fractions. So you always see something like, x minus 1, it would be x minus, x plus like an odd number that way. And let's change this to half. That way you know 1 and negative 7, and the vertex will always be smack dab in between, not at a fraction, though it could be at a fraction, and this would be at negative 4. No, that'd be at negative 3. Because this is a distance of 4 away, this is a distance of 4 away. If I did negative 7 plus 1 over 2, I would get negative 3. And then you'd plug in negative 3, negative 4 times. Yep, look at that. Oh, that's 4. So this would be 16, negative 16 times a half would be negative 8. Look at that. So negative 8 would be down here. Then this is your graph. Negative 3, negative 8. Okay, now we're going to switch gears. I'm going to give you the graph. You're going to find the equation. This is what you guys struggled on at the end of last class. Ready? Here's the graph. Bloop, bloop. This is at x equals negative 1. This is at, let me just slide it over so start with an easier one. This is at x equals 3. This is at x equals 1. This is the point 2, negative 4. Let's find the equation. Y equals. We start by writing what we know. We know we have a 0 at 1 and 3. And understanding intercept form, if I have a 0 at 1 and 3, I know I have x minus 1 and x minus 3. That way when I plug in 1, this is 0. When I plug in 3, this is 0. So that's my x coordinates 1 and 3. Now, what we don't know is A. This is very important, guys. We are going to use algebra to find A. We have a point, the vertex, on the graph of this quadratic. This is an x, comma, y solution to my quadratic. You will plug in the y and the x in this solution, and you will solve for A. This is not hard to do if you understand what this point tells you. It tells you a coordinate that works. This gives us negative 4 equals A times 1 times negative 1. That's negative 1. I divide by negative 1. I get A is 4. That gives me my equation. Y equals 4 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. That is not that bad. Okay. Your turn. I'll leave that up. Okay, never mind. I'll leave this work up for what I just did. But I'm going to draw another graph over here. And I would like you to come up with the equation of this red graph, where this is at negative 2, and this is at negative 4, and this point is at negative 3, negative 1. Go. Let's go ahead and pause the video, please, and have the students do this. Please do this, students. Please, please, please. Don't lose a day of learning. We have a great opportunity here. So let's learn. Pause the video. When they're ready, play the video. I'll have the answer. All right, here's the answer. For the red graph, I got y equals, I don't know what A is, but I know I have x plus 2 and x plus 4. Because when I plug in negative 2 or negative 4, I should get 0. And I will. Great. The only other thing I know is this point, which is a solution to my equation. It's something that works in my equation. So when I plug in y of negative 1 and a of negative 3, I should get A. I get -1 equals A times -1 times 1. A is going to be equal to 1. So my equation is that. All right, let me try to give you something a little bit harder. Here we go. This is the point 40. This is the point -60. This is the point 1. Yeah, I'm going to give you a random point. I don't have to give you the vertex. Here's a random point, -1, -1. Yep. Go. Write the equation. I'm going to pause the video, and you guys do it. When they're ready, we can play the video. And here comes the answer. We will start with understanding that if I have x plus 6, -6 plugged in here would give me a 0. X minus 4, 4 plugged in here would give me a 0. So I'm almost done. I know the point -1, -1. Okay, I plugged in -1. Get -1 equals A times, this is 5. This is -5. So I get -1 equals -25 times A. A is equal to +1 divided by 25. I hope this fraction isn't scaring you, but we have a very wide parabola. Okay? All right, let's look at our homework. Get your homework out. You're going to be turning this in along with your quiz. Go straight to 4. Write the equation of the parabola in intercept form. X-intercepts of 12 and 8. Okay, y equals A times x minus 12, x minus 8. Passes through the point 9,5. It's not the vertex, it's just a random point. Okay, well, whatever. When x is 9, y is 5. I get 5 equals A times -3 times 1. I can divide by -3. It's just -5/3. There's my equation. All right, you guys do the next one and the last one. Easy. This will be x minus 9, x plus 9. One of them will let -9 work, one of them will let 9 work. And then I got the point 0,4. 4 equals A times 0 minus 9. 0 plus 9. That's beautiful. 4 equals A times -81. A is 4 over -81. Great job. Okay? Go ahead and skip 7. Don't worry about 7, even on your quiz. I'm going to show you what your quiz looks like and make sure we walk through anything that might be confusing. Okay, moving up. This is review. Write an equation in vertex form. Let's remember vertex form. Y equals. This is like, I don't want to call it transformation form. I don't want to call it vertex form. I want to call it transformation form. x minus h squared plus k. All right? If it passes through 4, negative 7, has a vertex of 1, negative 6, well, immediately I can find the vertex is at x equals positive 1. So minus 1 will make that vertex positive 1, and I'll shift it to the right. And then minus 6 will give me that y, that k. Remember, this is like the h, this is the k. Passes through the point 4, negative 7. We've done this. We did this on our last quiz. Plug in negative 7 for y. Plug in 4 for x. You need to do in your calculator 4 minus 1 squared, or it's just 3 squared. You know that it's 9. Add 6 to both sides. I get negative 1 equals 9a. Divide by 9. A is equal to negative 1/9. My equation is y equals negative 1/9 x minus 1 squared minus 6. Okay, let's do the next two. Whatever, let's just do one of them. Please, everybody, do number 2. You can skip number 3. You'll thank me later. And then we'll do the rest of the homework. So y equals a x minus, okay, that's a negative 2. So it's x minus negative 2, which is the same as x plus 2, right? I'm going to shift to the left to negative 2, so I need a plus 2 in here. Plus 5. Find a, plug in 5 for x, and negative 4 for y. Oh, this will be fun. Negative 4 equals a times 7 squared, which is 49a. Great. Plus 5. Subtract 5, I get negative 9. Equals 49a. Divide by 49. A is equal to negative 9 over 49. Fantastic. Okay. Graph. X minus 6x plus 2. 2. 6. Easy. Midpoint. 3. And a half. No. 4. That's so silly. The x-intercepts are at x equals 6, or 6, 0, and 2, 0. The axis of symmetry is at x equals 4. 6 plus 2 divided by 2. Opens up or down? I see A is positive. I know it opens up, which means I'll have a min at x equals 4, with a value of, let's find the y coordinate of the vertex. I have 1/4. If x is 4, y equals 1/4. 4 minus 6, 4 minus 2. That's negative 2 times positive 2, which is negative 4, times 1/4. You could do this all in your calculator if you want to. Negative 4 times 1/4 is negative 1. So I have the 4, negative 1. And there's my graph. Write an equation. I got an intercept at negative 1. I got an intercept at 7. So y equals a x plus 1, x minus 7 would work out so that this is 0 if I plug in negative 1, and this is 0 if I plug in 7. I got a point 5, 3. Okay, so when x is 5, y's got to be 3. 5 plus 1 is 6. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. That's going to be 3 equals negative 12a. Divide by 12. You can do this in your calculator. It ends up being negative 1/4. 3 divided by negative 12 is negative 0.25. My equation, y equals negative 1/4, x plus 1, x minus 7. Oh, look at that. Right in focus directrix form? No! Okay, we can do it. X equals 1 over 4p y minus k squared plus h. K and h are flip-flops. 4p we got to worry about. The vertex is at 2, 0. So immediately I have x equals 1 over 4p, y minus 0 squared plus, this will be at 2. So notice how my H and my K are flip-flop. My P is this distance. What is this distance? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. P equals 4. So since P is 4, I have 1 over 16 y squared plus 2. We got a bridge. Height of the bridge, the number of yards from the base of the bridge, given by this. How far is the base of the bridge? So like, think about this. This is like negative 2x, x minus 90. Something that looks like this. Where are the zeros? At 0 and at 90. How far from the base of the bridge does the maximum height of, occur? Obviously, since it's a quadratic, it will occur halfway in between. What is halfway in between? When x is 45. So, what is the maximum height? It's my y when x is 45. So it's negative 45 times 45 times 2, whatever that is. Okay? Do it in your calculator. All right, let's look at the quiz. We're going to be handing out the quiz right now, and I'm going to pull it up and make sure that you guys are all good. I believe I gave you this. Okay. X-intercepts. That's easy. Now, first thing, understand that it's x's. So immediately D's out, because these are when x is 0, what is y. These are y-intercepts, so that's wrong. What is a quadratic function in intercept form with x-intercepts 5 and negative 2 and a value of a? So like, you should be able to do that. If you don't do that, I'm sad. Really, you should come down to either C or B, and you should be able to figure out which one is correct. Talk with your neighbors about it. Okay, this is great because you know A is not going to be 1. You just have to be able to identify the intercepts and then find the equation. We should understand 4. Okay. This is different. This needs some work. For number 5, your vertex form, please write this down. Remember, you got your vertex. That's your H and your K. This is your point. It's a random X and a Y. You could plug in X, Y to find H and K. If we need to pause so we can write this down, please do that. And that's it. That's your quiz. You should be able to crush this. You should be able to have a lot of time to just mess around on your phones after you're done with this. Please, everybody, get this quiz correct and feel confident about intercept form. And I will see you on Tuesday. We're going to have a test next Thursday. Thank you.